I really feel very honored to introduce Professor Gu. Professor Gu, he obtained his MA, PhD, Doctor of Literature honoris causa, all from Lancaster University. He's a research professor, head of Corpus Linguistics Department, and director of Corpus and Computational Linguistics Research Center of the Chinese Academy of Social Sciences. He's the holder of special titled professor, director of China Multilingual Multimodal Corpora and Big Data Research Center at Beijing Foreign Studies University. He's also director of Aging, Language and Care Research Center, which is jointly run by Tongji University and Chinese Academy of Social Sciences. His research interests include pragmatics, discourse analysis, corpus linguistics, rhetoric, and online education. His latest publications include the Routledge Handbook of Pragmatics, co-edited, the Encyclopedia of Chinese Language and Linguistics, co-edited, 5 volumes published by IPrA, Using the Computer in ELT, Pragmatics and Discourse Studies, and Chinese Painting. He has also edited several series of textbooks and collections of academic papers, such as Initial Exploration of Online Education and Second Exploration of Online Education. He's a member of the editorial boards of a number of international journals, namely Journal of Pragmatics, Text and Talk, Corpora, Pragmatics and Society, International Review of Pragmatics, Journal of Language and Politics, Language and Dialogue, and Journal of Chinese Language and Discourse. He is the winner of 5 national top research prizes and was awarded a K.C. Wong Fellow of the British Academy in 1997. He is a holder of many honorary posts, most notably special professorship at the University of Nottingham, adjunct professor of West Sydney University, visiting lecture professor of Peter the Great St. Petersburg Polytechnic University, and distinguished research fellow of Sydney University. I am very, very pleased to invite all of you to join me in welcoming Professor Gu Yueguo.
So I behave myself to keep my time. Okay. Okay, first of all, I must thank IPrA and Stephen Levinson and also Jeff for giving me this opportunity to share my research with such audience. My talk today is the multimodal corpus-based study of pre-speech. ASD means autism spectrum disorder children, and AD patients. AD means Alzheimer's disease patients. Now, the key message I want to drive home today is the substantiating Morris lost pragmatics. Okay, now I do a little bit of advertising. Aging, Language and Care Research Center is the research center I set it up 2 years ago. And then China Multimodal and Multilingual Corpora and Big Data Research Center I set up 4 years ago. So now this is my small team. But this team is very interesting. We have this neuropsychologist and also AI people, because eventually we want to develop robots to help aging population. Okay, main heading. First of all, the three subcorpora I want to introduce to this audience. And then against the three subcorpora, then I want to evaluate the mainstream, the current mainstream pragmatics. Is it adequate to cope with such big data? Where I use the term even impotence. I'm not sure whether it's approved, but anyway. Right, solution. My answer is the current mainstream pragmatics cannot cope with such big data. So we need a solution. So the solution I found is Morris lost the pragmatics. I call it multimodal behavioral semiotic pragmatics, MBS Pragmatics. Okay, toward the three-vote architecture of MBS Pragmatics, this is what I want to substantiate. Okay, unveiled, innerveiled, and Lebenswelt as a unifying meta-language. This language is basically used to unify animal behavior, pre-infants, ASD children, Alzheimer's disease patients, and even robots. I want to use this as a meta-language to unify them all. Okay, methodology, a big data research. Right, first of all, the corpus. This is a three subcorpora of SCCSD. SCCSD means the spoken Chinese corpus, or situated discourse. I've been working on this corpus over 25 years now. So this is the corpus basically want to cover what I call it life course corpora, from womb to tomb. This is the stages to cover this. Now, so in my data, I have this 103-year-old lady, is a professor of BFSU, birthday party. And I videotape all these birthday activities. And we also have a corpora of typical and ASD children. On this side, on your right side is the typical, and on this is atypical. Meaning children with autism, children with mental impairment. I have another corpus. This is the I call it demented and also AD patients discourse, patients, sorry. In contrast with normal aging corpus. So this is the normal aging. So now I have these three subcorpora. Against these three subcorpora to evaluate the current mainstream pragmatics, do the corpora disclose the incompetence or even impotence of the mainstream linguistic pragmatics? Sorry? Oh, yes, now this, I know it's got some delay. It takes time to respond, I realize, yes. I have to give the computer a little bit of time. Yes, now this is the pre-speech infants and toddlers. We have altogether, we collected about 12 and over 6 years. But there is one special kind, is we videotape one boy baby and one girl baby every day for 2 years. So we generate a huge data. This is one of the boys here. Videotape them almost day by day. Now, this is the data quote from the autism children, meaning autism spectrum disorder children. Now, I want to play a little bit. This child is 22 months. Technically, it's called infant autism.
小朋友，晶晶啊，是他名字。星星，星星，星星啊，星星啊。
Can you recognize voice?
很关注你的啊。
That's
星星。
I talked to this autism, just a girl baby, and she just refused to respond and stare into the window. The parents told me she used to do like this quite often. Now she's
新鲜，
stand up.
新鲜，跟爷爷握握手好吗？
新鲜啊，这叫爷爷握握手。
跟爷爷握握手。
This is a toy I brought to her, and she quite disappointed me. Just ignore it.
大公鸡，抱抱它。
I also brought her a box of chocolate.
巧克力，爷爷给你准备的巧克力。你看看，是好吃
This is
的。
the chocolate. She ignored it too. I was totally disappointed, but I understand. Now there is many other data, so I just want everybody to notice this special case. Now this is the data from my Alzheimer's disease patient. He is 75, and he looked at himself in the mirror. He didn't recognize the image in the mirror. Then he started talking to the mirror. And this is his discourse. Well, sorry, I didn't have time to translate into English. In Chinese, virtually just a collection of words and incoherent. But we can figure out he's imagining something like in the Japanese war against China and the bandits. Then he switched to shopping and he switched to just complete messy thing. Okay. He cannot even recognize himself. Now, this is another case of Alzheimer's patient. And can you recognize who is actually AD patient? This man or this man? Well, this man is second son of this gentleman. He is suffering from Alzheimer's. He cannot recognize his son sitting next to him. Now, what I'm concerned today is this. On your left side, we have this, I call the horizontal supine to crawling to vertical sitting, standing, and walking. This whole process representing sort of growing up. And on this right side here, I have this from vertical walking to sitting to crawling to horizontal supine. This representing the elder side. Elder side from top here can walking, running, eventually to lie down completely. This is actually data from my eldest brother. He just died a month ago. So exactly the opposite. What I'm trying to compare is one is the growing side, the other is deteriorating side. So can we draw anything, or can we have a unified research mechanism, a unified meta-language to discuss this? Okay, right. Another thing I just want to remind audience is by 2018, the aged population in China alone reaches 250 million. 250 million, almost cover the whole Europe's population in China. Is aged population. So it's aging is a big issue in China, probably in other countries as well. So I have £1 million bet. Use the current mainstream pragmatics to account for the data just shown. I'm ready to issue this check if everybody jump up and say, take this bet. Well, a bit joking, but can be serious. Critique of mainstream linguistic pragmatics. Serialization is based on mature, rational mind, capable of making inferences, doing full-fledged speech acts, conducting coherent and relevant talk exchanges, and being socially applied or implied or pleasing. This pragmatic landscape, borrowing Westuren's term, is shown to be inconsistent with either front part I'm referring to the infants growing up, and or the rear part of life course, I'm referring to the aged population. So I'm looking at the whole life course, the front end and rear part. Okay, Perkins, Pragmatic Impairment book. Although theories of pragmatics provide means of describing pragmatic impairments, the level of explanation they afford is rarely adequate for clinicians, in that it does not translate easily into clinical interventions. I fully agree. For example, in transcript 2.9, I didn't quote, the child could be described as breaking Grice's maxims of quantity, relevance, and possibly manner. Be brief. But such descriptive labels do not get us very far when trying to design a remedial program. One can hardly tell the child to stop breaking Grice's maxims. The same with old-aged Alzheimer's. Be relevant, be coherent, be polite. What do you mean? The Alzheimer's people, that doesn't make sense to them. Okay. Critique of the current studies. Language is not studied as a lived language through live experience. This is my major criticism. Language is not studied as lived language. Pragmatics is theorized in terms of meaning communication. Pragmatics is artificially confined to signification, ignoring significance. The term signification and significance is borrowed from Morris, the founding father of pragmatics. He has a book, it's called Signification and Significance. Yes. Okay, counter-argument. People may argue against me. Child language acquisition, for example, physiology, pediatric therapy, look after the front part. It is none of pragmatics business. Gerontology, neurolinguistics, etc., deal with the rare part. It is none of pragmatic business either. Well, pragmatics. First of all, interdisciplinarity. Searle in 1999 argues quite convincingly to me that pragmatic is by nature interdisciplinary. The founding father argument, this is my argument to support this. Morris' initial conceptualization pragmatics accommodates both the front and the rear. Evidence, quote Morris himself. Semiotic, this is the Morris term, the super term of pragmatics, must deal with sign processes in animals, in children prior to the acquisition of language, and in personality disturbances where self-observational reports are absent or unreliable. Yes, means personality disturbances basically refers to the aged population. This is what I'm talking about. So, remember, this is a book from 1964, Signification and Significance. Morris' original statement about pragmatics, I quote, by pragmatics is designated the science of the relation of signs to their interpreters. Since most, if not all, signs have their interpreters living organisms, signs have living organisms, okay, it is sufficiently accurate to sufficiently accurate capitalization pragmatics to say that it deals with biotic aspects of semiosis, that is, with all the psychological, biological, and sociological phenomena which occur in the functioning of sign. That's in 1938. Fantastic, fantastic. Remember. Okay. Now, please forgive me for no more supportive argument. You are cordially invited, if you wish, to look at my latest paper, Morris Lost Pragmatics, a plea for multimodal semiotic pragmatics, published in the Greater Moton's Journal, Chinese Semiotic Studies, just published recently. So no more argument. I assume everybody will forgive me if I go in and say, I take it. Yes, Morris pragmatics really very broad enough to cover both ends. Okay, now solution. Substantiating Morris lost the multimodal behavioral semiotic pragmatics. I call it MBS Pragmatics to take home because it's easier for us to remember. Remember, MBS Pragmatics, that's original pragmatics. Okay. Now, this is where my research starts. I start with John Searle's. Now remember, read 3 Searle's. This is lately I studied very carefully Searle's lifelong works, many works I read carefully. I differentiated 3 Searles, not just one. Because if you just read his speech acts, you really forget he has said a lot of other things. Okay, Searle early, speech act theory. Searle middle, intentionality. Searle latest, language naturalism. This is where I start. Okay, Searle, say 2007 and 2013. Language is a natural extension of non-linguistic biological capacities. This reminds you of Morris, animals, pragmatic study animals. Okay, now I summarized John Searle's research. Now, I wish I could use this one. Yes, now he says biological primitive intentionality. Biological primitive intention means it's a situated perception and intention in action. This is hunger, thirst, sex. Now, probably I move here. Yes. Now, this one is the intention in action. Hunger, thirst, sex. Animals have this. Humans have this. So this is the most primitive animals have this state. Then John Searle talks about pre-linguistic intentionality. And here we have this conception, action. High-level animals have this, like our close relatives, apes, chimpanzees have this. Linguistic intentionality, belief, desire, memory, intention, only human have this. And when then it's going up. So this is what John Searle talked about, the language as a natural extension of non-linguistic. Yes, I love this one. This is mobile. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Yes. So on the top is the biologically most advanced. And here is the most primitive animals. So the whole thing cut through. Fantastic theory. Oh, right. By the way, intentionality means anything that have an intentionality means can go beyond itself, about the outside world. Nice. I bypass this. I don't have time. This is elaboration of John Searle's theory. But stances we take. Language is a natural extension of non-linguistic biological capacities. John Searle, 2007. Pragmatics is deep-seated to meaning-making semiosis. Remember, we go further down to the animal side, without which meaning communication is impossible. This is Morris lost pragmatics. So we start with meaning-making semiosis, go much lower level of animal behavior. Dynamic multimodal interaction in live experience is the first step in meaning-making semiosis. This is my position. I want to argue for this. Dynamic intermodal interaction, multimodal interaction in live experience is the first step in meaning-making semiosis. Total saturated experience with total saturated signification, TSE, TSS, is fundamental to the well-being of pre-speech, ASD, and AD patients. This is the point I want to argue today. Okay. First of all, Morris, multimodal behavioral semiotic pragmatic in a nutshell. This is, I actually using Morris' own example. He didn't draw these graphics. I using these graphics so everybody now can get quick grasp of what he's talking about. Starting from here, I feel hungry. Then I using my nose to smell, there is cheese somewhere. Okay, this is, he called it distance. Now he called it distance senses, sight, hearing, smell. Here in this case, I using my smell. There is cheese somewhere. Okay, this is orientation. I start with impulse. This is also very important concept. Impulse to act. Okay. Right. I'm hungry. So orientation, I smell cheese somewhere. So then I move to manipulation. I'm using my contact senses, touch or taste. Then, there's cheese here. Then eventually I go to the consummation. I using my mouth and nose, of course, and tongue, and to taste the cheese. This is the consummation.
Okay, for each of these stages, orientation, manipulation, and consummation, there is a value involved here. Value is what Morris talked about, significance. Okay, now here, from your senses, you smell this to this, then you make this connection. This is a signification. To this, I want to add extra notion. It's called experience. Okay, now these are called this what Morris using dimension. For example, the value have this detachment dimension, a dominance dimension, and a dependence dimension. By dependence dimension, for example, the cheese. I'm dependent on the cheese to make myself less hungry or to feed myself. This becomes a dependence relation. I want to introduce another dimension. Is this called experience dimension? What does this mean by this? When you just smell the cheese, you have a test by comprehension type of experience. Okay, when you're using the manipulation, you got this test by eye experience. And eventually, actually eat the cheese, you have test by tongue type experience. This is why I call it saturated experience. The top one, just by comprehension, is least saturated experience. This total saturated experience with total saturated signification is extremely important in my case. So I want to give you further demonstration later on. Okay, right. Now, as I said, I criticize current linguistic theory. We look at language not as a lived experience. What do you mean by language as a lived experience? This one. Individual's language begins with a zygote and ends at death. This is zygote. Language begins here and ends at the death. When die, for example, for me case, when I die, my language gone completely. Okay, right. Hence, the individual's language is a process of lived experience from womb to tomb. This is my argument. Okay, lived experience. What do you mean by lived experience? First of all, lived experience starts from here. Is experiencing presently being lived, experience presently being lived here and now. Here, for example, everybody and I experience my talk. Okay, here and now. This is a present, experience being present. We have lived past experience, become knowledge, long-term memory, affect, etc. Right, we also have projected future experience. For example, I'm talking about this, then my next slide, I'm already project the future. Then the future becomes the present. Okay, this is what's happening, like this loop. Past fade into the present, and the future gradually become the present, like this one. Is this significant? Yes, absolutely. Look at this baby. This baby is sucking milk, this baby is sitting, and in this baby's case, he is experiencing the here and the now. Where is the future? If you ask the baby, where is the future? Why do you do this? Well, they are only prospect, the huge possibilities, potentialities, but not the real ones. Any past experience for this baby, in our case, eventually we shall show you, yes, some of the past experiences. Yes, but there's a huge potential. But in the Alzheimer's disease patients, things completely different. In our case, for example, one of the Alzheimer's disease patients, she lives only within, several seconds or 1 minute. Then she forgot everything, then repeating again and again. For example, she repeating, ask me, what is your name? Then I say, yeah, my name is Yueguo. What is your name? My name is Yueguo. What is your name? So what's happening is the present, the experiencing thing is just present experience, presently being lived here and now. What's happening to her? Memory lost, fragmented, episodic memory occasionally popping up. Working memory very short. And in the future, becoming almost like here because they can hardly project the future. What's happening next? What's happening next? Totally dependent on caregivers. So this is what lived experience, absolutely essential to do this. Okay, right. lived space-time. We can start much, much earlier, as Morris said, and as John Searle said, we are part of the biological heritage. Okay, lived space-time from zygote to embryoblast. This is where our space comes from. We start from this zygote here. Then this is 7 days later. We come this. Now here is the embryoblast, and this is called embryocyst cavity. Why this is important? Only 7 days. Why this is important? After I call it lived space. A single cell expands to multiple cells. Body space expansion. Embryoblast versus embryocyst cavity. The earliest form of self versus environment. Inside versus outside. Because this bit will eventually become the placid-best. And this will become the self, become the outside. Okay. So this is where the space is making, a lived space is making. A 7-day time is lived in 7-day lived body space. Time and space are interwoven as a whole here. Remember, the replicated cells know where they should go. Cell intentionality. A single cell, they know where it goes. Where to go, the heart, to the brain, to the arm, to the hair, for example. They know where they go. This is cell has intentionality. This is a biological intentionality. Right. So lived multimodality is another very important concept, and field multimodality is a biological intentionality. Open your eyes. When you open your eyes, you cannot but see things. Live ears, you cannot but hear things. For example, here in this talk, you cannot say, I don't want talk, listen to Gu's talk. But your ears do all the same. Okay. Live nose cannot but smell things. It's very good for you. If a bad smell comes, your nose will tell you immediately. There are many other things. Our body organs have built-in intentionality. That is, to reach out beyond themselves. To reach out, actually, term I borrowed from Merleau-Ponty. Everyone knows he has a famous book, sort of perception, phenomenology of perception. Okay. Right. Now, this is lived multimodality. We need and deserve another concept, total saturated experience with total saturated signification, TSE, TSS. This becomes more urgent than ever in the high-tech world. Why? First of all, let me explain by total saturated experience. Suppose I want to entertain everybody here with a roast-picking duck. What should I do? I invite everybody to Beijing. Go to the roast-picking duck restaurant and feed everybody. I'm rich enough to do that. Okay, this will give you totally saturated experience. No, I don't have money. Jeff don't have money either. Stephen don't have money either. So now, you cannot have taste by tongue experience. You cannot. All we can do is show you a video how other people enjoy roast picking duck here. So this is a taste by eye experience. You cannot taste by tongue. It's less saturated. We don't even have videos. We all have is just recipes in written characters or even in Chinese characters, ask you to read it. Okay, this is, I call it comprehension experience, taste by comprehension experience. If you compare the top one, taste by tongue, is actually roast picking duck. It's a saturated experience. Do you agree? And then just watching videos, other people eating it is taste by eye, less saturated. This is the least saturated experience. Why this is significant? I have a case to support you. I tested, tried in Beijing. A case in point, a 3-year-old girl looked after during daytime by 72-year-old Fable, should misspelling, Fable. Granny. Play iPhone apps most of the time. Can repeat single syllables word only, 3 years. And then reduce multiple words to single syllable, like if you say, mother say chocolate in Chinese, 3 characters. And she always say, li. Gu. Deprived, I diagnosis, deprived, experientially undernourished. Remember, experientially undernourished. Then I order the mother. iPhone banned. TSE, TSS only. Okay, now this is what's happening. The mother, I ask the mother, the videotape the girls' TSE, TSS activities every day for me to look at critically. This is the data collection I collected. What's happening is interesting. A month later, the mother sent me this WeChat message. He's saying, thank you very much, Professor. I'm so happy. I lost my salary was reduced. But my daughter, because I have to spend more time with my daughter, and my daughter seems to making progress. A week later, this message. You see, she started talking in sentences. Just 1 month. And this is another message just yesterday. My goodness, she said, from today, she played in a zoo and start making conversation herself. She initiated conversation. Fantastic. So why I'm against the iPhone thing, this is not naturally multimodal saturated experience. This is against baby's natural growth. Should be banned completely. Baby's growth needs natural multimodal saturated experience to grow. See, this is the hard evidence. Yes. Okay. Less than 2 months, the progress is fantastic. Yes. So the mother said, the mother owed me a big dinner. Okay. Another thing is, I found another support to this natural multimodal saturated experience is from the aged research. The aged research find is what? For the aged people, if you want to fight against aging, to live in a rich environment is much, much better for you. Now, for this conference, I'm so pleased to see Jakob May coming to this conference. He's 93, and this coming to this conference is saturated experience. If you stay at home, look at my videotaped picture or talk, it's less saturated. Saturated experience much, much good, much, much better, helpful to aged population. I call it anti-age device. Okay. This is a lot of other evidence. Lot of experimental support to this. Enriched environment is good for old aged people. Even particularly for what they call it, oldest old people. Fantastic. Okay. Right. Now, I'm using this to examine one of our research centers in Shanghai. Now, this is called the house for aged population. When I go visit there, I feel extremely unhappy. They don't understand what's happening. They just know how to feed the aged people. That's minimal. No, we need a lot more like this. Okay, no more. Okay, sorry, my time. You look at my time. No, funny. Okay, let me finish. Fine, I just wrapping up quickly. Now, toward the three-veiled architecture, multimodal behavioral semiotic pragmatics. What do you mean by this concept, unveiled? Inner veiled and Lebenswelt. Unveiled, the part of a physical surrounding that is perceived and acted upon by an animal. Okay, now, I'm using Morris. Morris didn't use in this term. I want to demonstrate. Morris says here we have this ant dancing to signal there is a nectar somewhere. Then other animals coming, other bees coming and make sense of it. So they make sense of this environment. The real concept coming from Uexkull's tick study. Oh, it's absolutely fantastic. This is biosemiotics. So this is tick. Eyeless is a deaf, senseless, no taste, but only aware of the approach of its prey through the sense of smell. Now here, the mammal come in, then it drop to this, and then suck blood, then die. What's happening is the environment be full of voices, full of colors, full of sound, doesn't make sense to this tick. Tick only perceive through smell. So this is what called unveiled. Okay, infants, the same. Like say, infants at the beginning, infants make sense exactly like other animals. Here, you see the pigs, they exactly exist. But however, infant is big different. They very quickly they grow. For example, the infant. When the infant give an injection, syringe in first, cry later. However, very quickly, cry at the first sight of a white coat nurse. Why? Because the infant develop inner veil. Okay. Right, I don't have time to demonstrate now. So this is a contrast with Piaget's theory with our MBS Pragmatics. IPS is what I'm suggesting. In Piaget's theory, he's suggesting a lot of mental representations. In our study, when it comes to this MBS Pragmatic, we make much less assumption about mental representation because animals don't make representations. You agree? Yes. So they do direct contact. Right. Autism children. I quote the famous autism it called Grandin, very famous. I think in pictures. Words are like second language to me. I translate both spoken and written words into full color movies, compete with sound, which run like a VCR tape in my head. When somebody speaks to me, his words are instantly translated into pictures. What I'm suggesting is in autism, the world they perceive is different from the way we perceive the world. Unveiled, inner veiled. Different. Okay, right. So I need to save time now. Unveiled, inner veiled, and Lebenswelt as a unifying meta-language. This is what I'm doing. How does a typically aging person take tube home from his workplace? I use myself as a case study because I'm over 60 now. By Chinese standards, I'm already aged population. So I make myself. Where may AD patients with disorientation disorder may go wrong? I want to find out where AD patients suffering from orientation disorder may go wrong. Where does it go wrong? Okay, can a guide dog be trained to help AD patients? Can we design a humanoid to help AD patients? Okay, right. Now this is what I try to do. I collect this. This is a data collecting device I'm using under the tube. And this is the humanoid I imagined we want to develop. Okay, now this is the data I'm collecting. I'm collecting my own data and to let the robot, humanoid, to learn from my data. Okay, right, I jump this one. This is eventually do this now. Methodology is big data research approach. Empirical assumption, experience to live. We experience to live. Live to build a lifespan big data warehouse. So this is the whole person model. Starting from experiencing, eventually building up to meta self, to institutionalized self, and building up big data. So this is what's happening. When we're building up, developing, we develop it multidimensionally. Okay, we do not just this one. So, this is the data here. It's called the fundamental formula. The dimensional means many cells. For example, my skin self, my ear self, my taste self, my brain self, and all these dimensions we can analyze. And then this is the data set. We write to this data. Okay. Now this kind of thing, we can easily develop computer programs to do the calculations. Okay, now this is that I visualize experiencing multiple levels, multi-dimension, and reduce come to experience. And this is my analysis from inborn baby, for example. The first cry, second cry of this baby, producing lots of data for analysis of second cry. And it takes the whole body to cry. A lot of data going on. This is lived supine position from 4 months infant. Lots of data. Now, this is lived data by 75-year-old AD patients in compare with the very healthy 91-year-old. You see the data, now here, the density of the data. The previous one, okay, I stop. Right, I almost stop now. Almost just 2 slides. Okay. Now, what I'm asking is, according to Lenneberg-Chomskyan's paradigm, this is actually my son when he's 1 month old. According to Lenneberg, sorry, Stephen, I apologize. So now, the initial state, when my son is born, he has initial language, I language in his mind, right? And already for any language, this is my son reaching 12. Of course, now he's over 25 now. Okay. Now, because when reaching this one, he had a stable state, E language. What's happening is from the first day he's born to this one, this 12 years of growth, what role does this play? Triggering. I don't believe it. Triggering, only triggering. I feed him 12 years, only triggering. I don't think so. So this is what we are to do now. We call it living as experiencing. So running in parallel. Yes, building up all the time. Right. So message to take home. It's high time to resurrect and substantiate Morris, MBS Pragmatics. It's a powerful complement to the current mainstream pragmatic. I'm not saying MSB pragmatic to replace. No. I'm saying it's a powerful complement to the mainstream pragmatics. Here it is. Thank you very much.
In fact, I'm afraid we don't have time for questions and comments, right? We will have to end the first plenary talk here, and move on to a tea coffee break for 30 minutes. 30 minutes, please watch the time. We'll see you back after in 30 minutes. Thank you. Thank you so much. Again, all right, big round of applause to Professor Gu's wonderful talk.
Does it make sense to do?
Yeah.
Okay.
If we allow people to
Yeah,
ask questions,
I'm sure
there will be types of questions. We've got so many different threads of ideas.